Hi, legal team. As you will hear in this episode that we recorded a few weeks ago, I was still recovering from my surgery and my voice definitely sounds a bit stuffy and odd. And honestly, it still does a little bit, but I can breathe way better now. And I'm super happy about that. This episode will get you up to date on Rachel's lawsuit against Ariana and Sandoval. And we have the results of Sandoval's motions that he filed in an attempt to get out of the case. And after listening to this episode, you will be up to date on Ariana's arguments and be able to understand the court's upcoming rulings on Ariana's motions, which are scheduled for July 11th, 2024. Our next episode will be focused on Real Housewife of New Jersey cast members. So get excited for that. There is a lot of legal tea to spill. Okay, now onto the episode.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Bravo Docket. We are going to pick up on an episode we did a few weeks ago or about a month ago, talking about Tom Sandoval and Ariana Maddox's response to Rachel Leviss's lawsuit. And in that, we went over Tom's demurrer and then Ariana's declaration in support of her anti-SLAPP motion, which we will do a recap of before we move on into this episode. But this episode's going to discuss other pleadings that were filed and other declarations, and then give the court's ruling on Tom Sandoval's demurrer and motion to strike. So we do have some understanding from the court on where they are on the pulse of this lawsuit. We have a lot of law to cover. I wanted to give a recap though, because I forgot what we talked about in prior episodes, and I'm sure everyone else did, and is not coming from that episode to this one because we have had some other episodes in between. So in the second episode, we went over Tom Sandoval's demurrer, which is a motion testing the legal sufficiency of the complaint. So it's trying to knock out certain of the causes of action by saying that Rachel didn't properly plead them. So he's facing allegations of recording an intimate FaceTime call, so eavesdropping, invasion of privacy, intentional infliction of emotional distress. He is not facing the revenge porn allegation. So for eavesdropping, what his attorneys did was try and pick apart the statute and say that the FaceTime call wasn't a communication under the statute. It was a video and it doesn't apply. There has to be some assumption that the conversation was going to be confidential. And he argued, well, the cast knew about the affair, so how could she imagine that this would be confidential? Which when we both talked about it, we were like, that doesn't make any sense.
Right.
And then for invasion of privacy, he argued that there was no intrusion, and that is a required element for invasion of privacy. It requires that the defendant penetrated some zone of physical or sensory privacy surrounding or obtained unwanted access to data about the plaintiff. Because she intended Sandoval to see it, he's arguing there was no intrusion, and then that there's no outrageous conduct for the intentional infliction of emotional distress claim. So that's what we talked about last time as it pertains to Tom. Do you want to talk about Ariana?
In the last episode, we talked about how the actions against Ariana were the cause of action for revenge porn, invasion of privacy, intentional infliction of emotional distress, but not the eavesdropping allegation. And then we went over Ariana's declaration in support of her anti-SLAPP motion. We did not read the anti-SLAPP motion, but that's one of the things we're going to go over today that we didn't go over last time. And then in her declaration that we went over the last time, it discusses how she found the video in Tom's phone and how it was a video of a FaceTime call and that Tom's face was in the upper right corner. So again, if you listen to our last episode, we talk about how he was trying to confuse the issues for the court, it sounded like. But this at least proves that Rachel didn't send a separate recording to Tom, but he was arguing that sending FaceTime counts.
That basically she consented to it being sent to him and didn't expect it to be confidential because she engaged in the FaceTime call.
Yeah, so Ariana used her phone to record 2 recordings of the FaceTime videos that Tom screen recorded and then sent the videos to Rachel. And then Tom deleted the videos from Ariana's phone. So that was what was in Ariana's declaration to the court.
Yes. So now we're going to go over her anti-SLAPP motion, which is what her declaration was attached to. And so the anti-SLAPP, we talked about it when we were talking about the Marco lawsuit and many other lawsuits before. To challenge a SLAPP suit in California, the defendant must show that they are being sued for any act in furtherance of the person's right of petition or free speech under the United States Constitution or the California Constitution in connection with a public issue. So when evaluating the motion, courts consider several factors to determine if a statement is related to a matter of public interest, including whether the subject was a public figure, whether the statement could affect a large number of people, whether the statement contributed to a public debate. and this is relevant because of the arguments that she's making. We're not going to read all of it. I just put the excerpts of the interesting bits.
So this is an excerpt from Arianna's intro to her anti-SLAPP motion. It says, for 7 years, plaintiff Rachel Leviss knowingly agreed to have every aspect of her life filmed and broadcast to millions of people on the reality television series Vanderpump Rule'd. Well, I didn't realize she was on for 7 years. Rachel's decision to expose her entire life to the viewing public brought her fame, money, and opportunities she never would have experienced otherwise. And Rachel reveled in the attention, going so far as to allow camera crews to film her engagement and confessions of her sex life with her fiancé.
In August 2022, plaintiff began having an affair with one of her castmates, Tom Sandoval, who was in a long-term relationship with defendant Arianna Madix. Contrary to plaintiff's allegations, Arianna did not know about the affair, but on March 1st, 2023, she learned about it in the worst possible way, by discovering a video on Tom's phone of Rachel and Tom having phone sex. That's not phone sex, right?
I mean, I guess it's FaceTime sex.
Yeah. I thought phone sex didn't, whatever. We don't need to get into that. Arianna was devastated and immediately confronted Tom and plaintiff regarding their betrayal. Arianna also informed her friends and colleagues. One thing Arianna did not do was share or show any of the video footage she found on Tom's phone with anyone but plaintiff.
Meaning Rachel. When we say plaintiff, we mean Rachel.
In fact, Arianna could not have shared such footage because Mr. Sandoval, so Tom, she calls him Mr. Sandoval, I'm not doing that.
Which we think is
Tom
funny.
deleted it from her phone within minutes of Arianna confronting him, a fact that Arianna stated in writing 33 minutes after sending the videos to Rachel.
Notwithstanding Arianna's discretion and restraint, Rachel alleges in the complaint that Arianna should have done absolutely nothing after discovering the messages and sexually explicit video between her life partner and Rachel. If Rachel had her way, Arianna would not have told anyone about the affair or the video. But because Arianna did share such information, as is her right, Rachel seeks to punish and blame Arianna for the negative reaction Rachel received as a result of her affair with Tom.
Rachel's complaint against Arianna is an abuse of the legal process. Plaintiff does not seek to vindicate any cognizable rights, but to punish Arianna and deter others from exercising their constitutionally protected right of free speech. Such conduct is plainly barred by California's anti-SLAPP statute. Rachel's claims against Arianna fall within the broad ambit of the anti-SLAPP statute. They should be stricken, and Arianna should be awarded her attorney's fees and costs.
All right, so then it moves on to Arianna's statement of facts. And
these are just excerpts.
Yeah. In 2016, Rachel began dating series regular James Kennedy and agreed to make appearances on the show's 5th season. For 3 seasons, Rachel voluntarily appeared on the series, and in 2021, Rachel joined the series as a cast member and was featured in an ongoing storyline about her engagement to James Kennedy and discussions of their sex life.
After ending her engagement to James in December 2021, Rachel chose to return for season 10. Rachel has admitted that when filming started in July 2022, she was depressed, in a bad emotional state, drinking heavily, and looking to jump into a new relationship. Her storylines focused on dating other cast members, including a flirtation with a fellow cast member's ex-husband. In the scenes, Rachel began a secret romantic relationship with Tom, who was then in a committed relationship with Arianna and had been for 9 years. Rachel and Tom successfully managed to keep their affair a secret from Arianna, the production team, and other cast members until after filming for season 10 ended.
Then it goes into how Arianna discovered the affair, which we covered already, so we're not going to go into that again. There's an excerpt from a heading in Arianna's statement of facts titled, "As any reasonable person would do after learning that they had been cheated on, Arianna began informing her friends about what happened. According to Rachel, she did the same thing. On March 3rd, 2023, news of the affair broke and was covered by dozens of media outlets, which dubbed it Scandival. Many of the articles noted that Arianna had learned about the affair by finding intimate videos of Rachel on Tom's phone. Not a single article contained such videos nor screenshots of the videos. Although much of the public discussion about Rachel was negative, she was thrilled to be in the public eye."
Rachel recalled seeing an Us magazine saying, "We, Rachel and Tom, were on the front cover in a little square on the top right, and I was like, oh my gosh, I've always wanted to be on the cover of a magazine. I didn't think it was going to be like this, but like still cool, right?
Contrary to her allegations in the complaint, Rachel made numerous public statements about her affair with Tom in which she admitted that Arianna did not know about it, apologized for hurting Arianna, and admitted that Rachel had personal issues that she needed to work on. At no time did Rachel claim that Arianna had caused her any harm.
Then it goes on to how Rachel went into the mental health facility but didn't attribute it to the affair. Rachel said she wanted to go before the affair to get help with issues of codependency. Then it gets into plaintiff's return to the public eye. So Rachel, after leaving treatment and despite Rachel's current allegation that she, quote, remains a shell of her former self with her career prospects stunted and her reputation in tatters, Rachel has sought to capitalize on her newfound fame. In August 2023, Rachel was featured in a 3-part interview on the podcast Just Be with Bethany Frankel. To be clear, Rachel contacted the podcast to pitch the interview, not the other way around.
On December 2nd, 2023, Rachel posted on social media a picture of herself dancing with the caption, "Dancing the night away at the Heart Jingle Ball." On December 3rd, 2024, Rachel posted photos on social media of her at the exclusive Nobu restaurant in Malibu with the caption, "At Nobu Restaurants with the iHeart podcast team." On January 2024, Rachel premiered her Rachel Goes Rogue podcast. According to Rachel's press release, she will passionately cultivate candid conversations, breaking the fourth wall in reality TV, and frankly discussing living her entire dating life on camera.
In February 2024, Rachel appeared on the cover of Hollywood Life magazine and gave an interview to discuss her podcast, quote, and focusing on her future outside of the Bravo sphere. The same month, Rachel was in New York for Fashion Week, which culminated with her walking the runway as a model at the Gaudi by Joanna Hernandez show.
I really hope that the attorney that got to write this is a Bravo fan, so they got to go through all this stuff and put it together.
Oh, just wait for the declaration. Yeah.
This is another excerpt from Ariana's SLAPP motion, and the heading says, "Plaintiff meeting Rachel changes her tune and blames Arianna for the damage caused by her own misdeeds." On February 29th, 2024, Rachel filed this lawsuit. While much of the complaint is aimed at Bravo and its alleged exploitation and mistreatment of Rachel, Bravo is not a named defendant. Cesie and I talked about this quite a bit when we covered the actual complaint. The complaint also blames Arianna for the negative public attention Rachel received as a result of her affair with Tom. Rachel's position is not only illogical, but also a clear violation of Arianna's right to speak freely about matters of public concern. Rachel voluntarily agreed to appear on a reality television series that placed every aspect of her personal life in the public spotlight and under a microscope, viewed by millions of people every week.
As a matter of law, Arianna cannot be held liable for participating in discussions of a matter of public interest. This lawsuit should never have been filed against Arianna and is ripe for early adjudication. For that reason, Arianna brings this motion to dismiss the claims against her and recover her attorney's fees and costs. So this is her argument. Now we're in the argument section for the anti-SLAPP. She says section blah, 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 referred to by courts as the catch-all provision protects any conduct in furtherance of the exercise of the constitutional right of free speech in connection with an issue of public interest. Under the provision, courts engage in a 2-part analysis: what public issue or issue of public interest the speech in question implicates, and then second, what functional relationship exists between the speech and the public conversation about some matter of public interest. So now she's going to get into why this was an issue of public interest.
Okay, well, first, I have a question. If we were explaining this to a jury, what would we say the specific speech is that Arianna is claiming applies to this?
It would be conduct.
Okay.
So she argues it in here. It'd be the taking of the video and the sharing of the video.
It says Arianna's alleged conduct concerned an individual in the public eye. It says where the subject of the defendant's conduct that precipitated a claim is an individual in the public eye, this alone can satisfy the public interest, public issue requirement of the relevant statute. Here, Rachel is unquestionably an individual who has voluntarily thrust herself into the public eye by allowing a production company and network to film and broadcast every aspect of her personal life. Rachel herself has admitted on several occasions that she is a public figure. By the time of Arianna's alleged conduct, Rachel was a main character on the series and had been featured in a storyline focused on her romantic life that included accusations of her cheating and flirting with a fellow cast member's ex-husband.
Because Rachel opted to put her personal life in the spotlight by appearing on the series, it cannot be disputed that she voluntarily subjected herself to the inevitable scrutiny that comes from such notoriety. Consequently, there is no doubt that Arianna's purported actions concern an individual who has thrust herself into the public eye, and she has satisfied the first element of the test. Then the next argument is that there was a functional relationship between Arianna's conduct and a matter of public interest. So it says Ms. Maddox's alleged conduct contributed to the public discussion regarding plaintiff's romantic life by sharing her personal experience of discovering the affair and that plaintiff was not who she presented herself to be on the series. That disclosure of information then created a media storm so extraordinary that it was given its own nickname, Scandival. So Arianna has satisfied the second element of the test and has established that the challenged conduct arises from protected activity. So assuming that Arianna prevails and the court finds that the suit was based on conduct in furtherance of the exercise of the right of free speech in connection with a matter of public interest, then the burden shifts to Rachel to prove that she has a reasonable probability of prevailing on her causes of action. So to get in front of that, Arianna is next arguing that Rachel does not have a reasonable probability of prevailing. And so she goes through the causes of action that Rachel has alleged against her and is now arguing against each one, starting with the revenge porn cause of action.
Okay, this has been a big topic on Reddit. We love you, our Bravo Real Housewives subreddit. Arianna's arguing that Rachel cannot prevail on her revenge porn allegation. She says she only sent it to Rachel, who was obviously in the video, and no one else, and she didn't display it to anyone else. And in Arianna's pleading, she says this is consistent with every statement that Arianna has made about the incident from the beginning, including a text message sent 33 minutes after she sent the videos to Rachel, a March 7th, 2023 letter to Rachel's then attorney, an interview that Arianna gave in August 2023, well before the filing of this lawsuit. I have not shown or sent that video. I don't have it. I did not hold it for every reason. And just so everyone knows, I saw about maybe 5 seconds of that. I wasn't sitting there like opening popcorn for movie night. That's in quotes. This is further corroborated by members of the Vanderpump Rule'd cast because Rachel has not and cannot proffer, which is just a fancy lawyer word for offer, any evidence in support of her claim for revenge porn against Arianna. It must be stricken. I feel like this is a strong argument. She's saying, maybe the statute could technically be read to say that me taking a video of it and sending it to a person over the internet, over the phone that was in the video is technically a transmission. This doesn't mean that she can prevail on her revenge porn allegation. And I think it's a strong argument. I think if you thought of somebody that didn't have, again, the restraint that Arianna had and was furious and actually wanted to cause Rachel harm, she could have released that any number of places or even just sent it to somebody that wouldn't have been as careful with it. But she didn't. And her story has been consistent. And that's one thing her lawyer can make a very strong point about, which is the truth doesn't change. Her story hasn't changed. She has said exactly what she did with it from the very beginning and been consistent.
I agree with that. And I think you're going to like her next argument. So her next argument is that there's no harm. As an initial matter, Rachel cannot prove that she suffered general or special damages as a result of Arianna allegedly sharing these videos because she is unaware that Arianna, in fact, shared the videos with anyone. In other words, Rachel has improperly substituted her fear that Arianna may have shared the videos with alleged damages caused by Miss Maddox actually sharing the videos, which did not occur. As Rachel alleges, Rachel, was terrified Arianna would leak them on the internet. That's in the complaint. Arianna obviously did not leak anything onto the internet, and Rachel cannot state a claim for revenge porn based on something that Arianna never did. Further, Rachel has admitted that her alleged damages either 1, existed prior to Arianna discovering the video, 2, were due to the public learning about the affair, and or 3, were due to the actions of Tom and or Bravo and or third parties. Third, Rachel's alleged harm occurred because the world discovered she had a secret affair with Tom, not because Arianna shared any explicit videos. It was news of the affair, not the distribution of explicit videos, which never happened, that caused Rachel to be shellacked into the press. To the extent news stories even mentioned the videos, it was background as to how Arianna discovered the affair.
And yeah, I love these arguments. These are common sense arguments. These are the types of things that Cesie and I were talking about when we read the initial complaint, saying, well, even if it may technically fit under the wording of the statute really is pretty new. It hasn't been interpreted in a lot of case law. And then also, that doesn't mean that she's been harmed, and she can't separate the harm from her fear of this happening to what actually occurred and all the other things that she put in her own complaint that were going on that were objectively upsetting and harmful, that had nothing to do with the video being released. Now, and I remember from her original complaint, she tried to tie everything into the fact of the discovery of the video. Basically, that was the domino that caused all of the other things. And they, in her complaint, tried to tie that back to that. But this argument here very succinctly sort of shuts that down, I think.
Right. So imagine a world in which Rachel and Tom were not engaged in an affair, and Arianna was not with Tom and happened to find the video and mention the video. Then it's a clean thing. Then it's like, okay, anything that came after that probably is purely because of her discovering the video. But Rachel had already set up this year-long affair, and that's really what caused all of the damages that she received and all the backlash that she received. It wasn't finding the video. That's what outed it, but there was already this entire years-long affair happening. But if it was just a plain relationship and she found this video, there would probably be nothing there.
Yeah, this is well written, and it makes sense. And even if you are a clerk or a judge that has no really background or understanding about the show or anything like that, I feel like you can read this and understand it. And it's done in just a few paragraphs, and I really like the way this is set out.
All right, next one is invasion of privacy. One argument that Arianna makes is that there was no intentional intrusion. She argues that she inadvertently stumbled upon the videos. The only place she says that she intruded was Tom's phone, which is something I said. But then she says that she had permission because she had his passcode, which is something you said.
Right.
Yeah.
I have to just briefly, I have to say it's fun to see Arianna's attorney making the arguments that we predicted.
I know.
Yeah. We just feel like we're on the right track. So it says, by the same token, Arianna's alleged intrusion was not in a manner highly offensive to a reasonable person. To satisfy this element, the plaintiff must show that the intrusion is so serious in nature, scope, and actual or potential impact as to constitute an egregious breach of the social norms. And then it cites a case. It says, Arianna looked at her life partner's phone, to which she was given the passcode, something every spouse, boyfriend, or girlfriend has likely done in the course of their relationship. It is not an egregious breach of any social norm. In fact, it is the social norm. I love that argument. Because Rachel cannot prove at least one element of intrusion into private affairs, her claim must be dismissed. So just a little lawyer comment there. A lot of times when you are trying to make a case as a plaintiff, you'll have a claim that you're trying to make, and there's multiple elements of that claim. It's like a list or factors, and you have to prove all of them. And so if you don't have one, like basically you have to have all the pieces of the puzzle and complete the puzzle. And so if you're missing a piece, then the whole claim fails. And so that's basically what they're arguing here.
All right, next, intentional infliction of emotional distress. This is a similar argument to the one that Tom made in his demurrer, and it's that the conduct was not outrageous. That Arianna's conduct of sending videos to Rachel and telling people that she discovered Tom and Rachel were having an affair after finding intimate videos in his phone was not outrageous conduct, and it does not exceed all bounds of that tolerated in society. She also argues that Rachel cannot prove severe emotional distress.
And again, these are the same arguments that we anticipated that Arianna's attorneys would make when we talked about this. So Rachel's allegations of distress are not severe. The revelation of a secret affair is bound to cause some distress. But Rachel's alleged distress was for a very short period. Rachel's own social media and podcast demonstrate that she is not continuing to experience emotional distress, let alone severe emotional distress. As the court held in a case that they cite, allegations that a plaintiff has suffered discomfort, worry, anxiety, upset stomach, concern, and agitation as a result of the defendant's conduct does not comprise emotional distress of such substantial quality or enduring quality that no reasonable person in civilized society should be expected to endure it. And then it says, and finally, Ariana's conduct was not the proximate cause of Rachel's alleged distress, which is another thing Cesie and I argued heavily when we read Rachel's complaint.
All right. Next is the attorney declaration in support of the anti-SLAPP. And usually these don't have any substance. It's just summarizing what the exhibits are. That's how you get exhibits in front of the court. You have to attach it to an attorney declaration more often than not. We don't have the clips that are referenced in here because they were lodged with the court. Fortunately for us, the attorney summarizes them. So let's go through them. This is only, again, excerpts, not everything. All right. So first, it says a true and correct copy of the video clip captioned, quote, "I just don't suck James Kennedy's dick." Oh, something I never thought I would read. Posted by the Bravo Watch What Happens Live Twitter account on March 1st, 2023. And then it has the link, has been lodged with the court as Exhibit 1. So I'm assuming that's Rachel saying she doesn't suck James Kennedy's dick anymore. And now I hear my landlord's grandchildren outside, so hopefully they didn't hear that. Next, a true and correct copy of Rachel's Rachel Goes Rogue podcast preview published on December 18th, 2023. And then it has the Apple link, has been lodged with the court as Exhibit 2. But here we have quotes from the podcast clip. It says, at 46 seconds in this preview, Rachel states, quote, "I spent 90 days in a trauma therapy center without a phone, with all new people, and working with different therapists. I started noticing a pattern in my behavior, and I wanted to change those things." I believe that this is to support what she was saying in the statement of facts, so it's just some proof that Rachel did go into treatment. Next one is a true and correct copy of Rachel's podcast, Rachel Goes Rogue, Chapter 1, published on January 7, 2024, has been lodged with the court as Exhibit 3. At 5:47 in the episode, Rachel states, quote, "So going into treatment, right, I knew that Tom was not a healthy person for me. I had become the worst version of myself through the 7 months of, secrecy and deception and going along with these lies that ate me up. And part of that is my fault. I chose to put myself in that situation, and it was a really bad choice, and I'm suffering the consequences now. But I was still in relation with Tom. We were talking on the phone almost every single day when I went for treatment. And in those months that I was there, I was debating whether or not to go back to do this show. And I really realized that my problem stemmed from these unhealthy relationships. And although I knew that Tom was bad for me and he had violated me and got me into this position, I was still talking to him and still making plans to see him after I got out of treatment. So I knew my main focus needed to be more on, why am I doing this?"
I love that we're getting, Vanderpod recaps.
We are.
The legal pleadings.
That's what I'm saying. Whoever wrote this, hopefully, like you said, she was a fan because there's a lot in here. Do you want to read the next one?
At 7 minutes, 43 seconds in the episode, Rachel is asked, "And why do you think you're so sort of connected or entangled or addicted to him?" And she replies, "It's a very heavy and loaded question. I think there's multiple factors that play into that. I think I put him on a pedestal and looked up to him in a way, and he validated me in a way that I felt very adored and admired, and I felt valued as a person. But I realized that I have a pattern of putting these guys on a pedestal, and then my friendships suffer because I'm not spending as much time with my friends. It's all about this one person, and it kind of takes over my life." At about 9 minutes and 44 seconds in the episode, Rachel states, "And watching season 10 back, I got really emotional because I saw how much I was drinking and how much I was numbing my anxiety and numbing my pain." Okay, comment from me. I mean, we did see her really break down in that season and sob. We didn't know what was happening yet, but we knew there was something going on.
At 14:06 in the episode, Rachel is asked, "Did you ever consider telling Arianna anything that he told you about what was going on in the relationship and how he felt and everything?" And she replies, "Yeah, it was definitely uncomfortable knowing this in the back of my mind and knowing that she didn't know the extent of it." At 16:52 in the episode, Leviss states, "It was a new experience, and I think part of that too, and I don't want to make excuses here either. I'm, learning so much about myself. A lot of that had to do with always being a good girl and doing as I'm told. I was always a rule follower. And once I aged out of pageants and I didn't have that ceiling over me anymore, I just kind of went wild and just, it's so silly. And just also I was coming out of my people pleasing era because there was a lot of pleasing with James, especially in that relationship, and a lot of holding myself back with my drinking so that he wouldn't be tempted to drink, and a lot of monitoring my own behaviors to benefit our relationship, which I realize now is codependency."
I mean, a comment for me, I think it's pretty clear her relationship with James was pretty that wasn't good for her. But again, it's showing how she had trauma from other things that had nothing to do.
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly why they're putting this in.
Yeah. At 18 minutes in the episode, Rachel states, and I met James when I was 21. And so, I'm 29, and all of those years have been on a reality TV show. At 34 minutes, 36 seconds in the episode, Rachel states, so my family found a specific breed of golden doodle rescue in Southern California, and my dad drove him over there, and my mom had the trainer's phone number, and they promised to keep the rescue adoption situation under wraps because I was a public figure.
She said it. Next is, again, from her podcast, Chapter 6, published February 1st, 2024, lodges an exhibit with the court. At 11:09 in the episode, Rachel states, I'm in a different place than I was back then. And it's a weird time warp when you're watching a show like this and living one reality in that moment. And then months later, when the episodes are airing, you're living in another reality, but you're also reliving those moments that they captured on camera. And so it's a nod to my younger self who was still in love and infatuated. And I feel like with my apology that I made at the reunion, I had all the right intentions and I was extremely sorry. There's another part of an apology, which is your actions afterwards. They have to align with what you're saying. And by sending him letters and being in contact for a good amount of time, I still, want to take this time now to apologize again because I am in a different place than I was back then. And I can see things a lot clearer now. And also you saw the part where they did the flashbacks and I got emotional watching that. I recognize that my behavior was so hurtful to her.
Chapter 8 from Rachel Goes Rogue, Does Tom Know What Love Is? Published February 9th, 2024. At 36 minutes in the episode, Rachel states, when I was at the Meadows, Tom and I would send letters to each other, so I got a big package. There were 3 items in there, a friendship lamp where you tap it and it changes colors, Bluetooth connected, 1 lamp per person. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's actually a really cool gift. And then the second thing in the box was an Us magazine, and we were on the front cover in a little square at the top right. And I was like, oh gosh, I've always wanted to be on the cover of a magazine. I didn't think it was going to be like this, but still cool, right? And then at 11 minutes and 20 seconds in the episode, Rachel states, I was fully aware that I did not have integrity in that moment to tell Arianna, but I have more integrity now. I own up to the fact that I'm not perfect. Yeah, I didn't have integrity during that time. I was not honest, and I did not tell Arianna what was going on. And that was a choice I made and something that I have to live with. So here, that's her contradicting her statements from the complaint where she said, oh, Arianna knew about it.
Right. The next is Chapter 19 from Rachel's podcast, also lodged as an exhibit. And it was published April 15, 2024. At 6 minutes 37, Rachel says, choosing to take legal action was not something that I chose lightly. I really had to weigh all of the pros and cons, and one of the cons was the public reactions to it. I saw this coming, and it's just something that I had to debate and realize that if I want to seek legal action against Tom, then I also have to seek legal action against Arianna.
Okay, who told her that?
Yeah, she doesn't have to.
Her claim against... Who told her that?
She could still allege everything she did. And
not name Arianna as a defendant. Just
right.
like she did with Bravo.
Right, exactly. She can still say, this caused me a lot of harm because this person named Arianna found the recording that Tom took that invaded my privacy and then eavesdropped on the call without having to name her.
Why is she saying she has to seek legal action against, that makes no sense to me.
Okay, so next is Bethany Frankel's podcast, Just Be with Bethany Frankel, which was lodged with the court as Exhibit 9. So this is the episode that she did with Rachel that was published August 16, 2023. At 4:48, Rachel says, looking back now, I can see that I was still healing from a relationship with somebody I thought I was going to marry. And in ending that, I still haven't healed yet. So when I was filming, I was drinking a lot to ease that anxiety. And in a reality TV environment, I wasn't getting that safe space for me to express my emotions in a healthy way. At 26:55, she says, so that already set me up to want to perform well. Going into season 10, I was like, okay, if this could be my season, I could really stand out. And I'm single for the first time. I want to embrace that. She did.
I just can't stop thinking about that scene of her where she goes on that date with Peter and just starts crying. I actually really felt for her in that moment. At 2 minutes and 6 seconds in the episode, Rachel states, but then the other part of the reason why I wanted to go into a treatment facility was to understand my behaviors, and my goal was to really get down to the bottom of, okay, Why am I choosing men that are unavailable? Why do I keep finding myself in unhealthy relationships? What are the things that I need to change about my behavior? And in knowing that I needed to make a change, I first had to know what it was that leads to those behaviors. And, I think there's any woman in their 20s probably has felt like that at some point because we've dated enough people and you're like, how am I keep making these terrible dating decisions?
All right. The next one is Sheena Shea's podcast, Shenanigans with Ariana Madix. It's the episode called There's Just Something About Her, published August 25th, 2023. And in it, Miss Shea and Miss Maddox have the following exchange. Who do you want to be?
I'll be Ariana. I have not shown.
I know.
Or sent that video. I don't have it. I did not hold it for any reason.
It was not sent to the cloud.
The video was gone before I even called her on the phone. And just so everyone knows, I saw about maybe 5 seconds of that. I wasn't sitting there like opening popcorn for movie night. So I know that she said that it's like that people know what's in it. It's very simple.
All right. And then next is an episode of Heather McDonald's Juicy Scoop podcast where Lala's on, and it was published March 15, 2023. At 50:05 in the episode, Lala says that she told Rachel's attorney, quote, "Don't ever send me a direct email ever again. I have counsel. I don't have the video, nor do I want it. I haven't seen it. My eyes would light on fire." All right. And that's to support that Ariana has said she never sent it to anyone. And her castmates are saying that they didn't see it. So other exhibits that were lodged were People article, Us Magazine articles, all that jazz. Okay, so the question I have for you, because it's very pertinent to questions we have received from fans concerning statements made on podcasts and shows, is whether you think this is admissible. I have my answer. I don't think these are admissible. I think these are all hearsay. Do you agree?
Well, it depends on what it's being used for. I think in this context, for this motion, it's admissible because this involves public statements and what was going on in the public discourse. But for the truth of the matter asserted,
I would object to all of these.
For the truth of the matter asserted.
And you can't object to it.
Yeah, I would say no. But as far as if it's being asserted for the fact that this is the public discourse over it, this is what was in the public domain, then, which I think is relevant to this, then yes. But as far as the evidence of the truth of what's in the specific statements, no, I would agree with you.
Well, then some of it, I would say, could not come in and shouldn't even be considered for the motion.
I mean, this is being read by a judge, so the judge can say, like, I know what's hearsay and what's not, and I won't be improperly influenced. And they can say, I'm just laying out the context of it. And then the court can say, in the order, this is what I actually based my ruling on.
Right.
Yeah.
But personally, if I was the other side, I would have a field day with most of these.
I mean, these are filed pre-discovery, right? Like this anti-SLAPP motion. So you have to just go with what you've got. And they're saying this is the context of what these things were said in. And then you've got Ariana's declaration, which is evidence. It was signed under the penalty of perjury. But then, yeah, these statements from what everyone else is saying, if it's for the truth of the matter asserted, there's a hearsay issue.
Yeah. So Rachel's statements that she made on her podcast about the reason she went into the treatment facility. In my opinion, that's being submitted for the truth of the matter asserted, which Ariana is saying was because it wasn't because of the affair. It was because of her codependency issues. That, in my opinion, should not be considered at all.
But it sounds like she's got enough in here from what I read in your outline that she does have enough admissible evidence, like the forensic examiner's declaration, her declaration.
Right, which we're going to get to next.
Yeah.
But okay, I get it. I get these quotes to support that she's a public figure and that this was a matter of public discourse. I don't get it to support that there aren't damages here or that she wasn't the cause of the damages. I don't think it should come in for that.
But there's also a bunch of hearsay exceptions. And so Rachel's own statements, it's a statement of a party opponent.
Against a party opponent?
Yeah. I mean, there's a million hearsay exceptions that you could probably come up with for a bunch of them too, which is a fun exercise I like to do when I can't sleep.
Well, yeah, that's why I wanted to raise it. It's you can't just rely on all of these. Because the reason I want to talk about it is because we get so many questions about how people can use clips or podcasts or all that in court. And yes, this was attached to a declaration, but this can't all necessarily be considered by the court.
No, and you would
so
go
that's
through.
why I wanted to bring it up.
Yeah, that's one of the fun parts of being an attorney. It's okay, was this a statement for medical treatment? That's a hearsay exception. Was this, a statement by a party opponent? Was this an admission? Was this, there's a million different either hearsay exceptions or statements that are out of court statements that are not hearsay by the rule. And here it's California state court, right? So it's the California rules of evidence. It would be fun to sit and go through some of these and figure out what exceptions we could come up with.
The reason I wanted to raise that is because someone saying something on a podcast is not, that's not testimony. So that just doesn't get to come in just because someone said it on a podcast. Yeah, but just to clarify to those listening, just because it's on a podcast or in an episode of television doesn't mean that it's going to be considered as evidence, because it still has to meet the evidentiary standard to be submitted to the court or come before a trial. I just want to point out, even though these were attached and we're reading from them, they're not necessarily going to be all considered. They have to meet the evidentiary standards like we're talking about. These are all considered hearsay, but there are exceptions to hearsay like we're talking about. So yeah, I just want to clarify, because people constantly ask us, like, can they just use this clip from Erica, saying that she spends this much money on makeup on Watch What Happens Live? No.
Right.
You have to argue why it should be considered. It could still be objectionable.
Right. Yeah. So. I mean, and there's so many different aspects to it. Even if it's your own statement on your own podcast, there's the issue of like, well, does this meet the foundational requirements? Does this fit the context? There's admissibility, foundation. You can't just do the housewife thing and say, I heard so-and-so saying that. Whoever said it has to be able to be there to have it challenged and examined and put through the crucible of cross-examination and the entire foundational court process.
Next, to support Arianna's anti-SLAPP, she had a forensic examiner give a declaration, and the examiner looked through her phone.
I've had to go through a ton of these.
But you're going to see it's just images.
Yeah, the person introduces himself in the declaration and says, I am the vice president and chief forensic examiner of this digital forensics firm. And then he attaches his curriculum vitae as Exhibit 1. And then he says, for more than 16 years, I have regularly collected forensic images and examined a wide range of digital evidence items such as mobile phones, laptops, blah, 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 blah. And just so you guys know, in a court proceeding, Arianna had this done on her own. This is pre-discovery, so she had this preserved. But typically, this is done in the discovery process. Let's say you filed a lawsuit against somebody and you've shown that there's evidence that you should get in discovery on their phone. So you file a motion to have a forensic examination done of the phone. You work out with the other side what the experts are going to do, what they're going to be allowed to do. You have the court decide some things if you can't agree. And then you get the forensics download, and then both parties go through the data. But she just did this on her own to prove up her SLAPP motion.
Yeah, her phone was examined on April 25th, 2024 by this company. And they were looking for media and conversations present on the device between March 1st, 2023 at 12 a.m. through March 2nd, 2023 at 11:59. So it says, of the photos and videos found to be present on this device and filtered for the pertinent time period, none included images or videos of nude photos or images that may have been visible on a separate device.
Yep, and then there's the screenshots of forensic images where it has the date and time, and then it's in universal coordinated time, and it says you are dead to me, priority normal. There's screenshots of that saying, I called her after finding out and texting her the videos of herself from Tom's phone that I took, and it has the date and time of that. And then it says, Tom took my phone and deleted them. I mean, this is strong evidence because this is at the exact time, and it confirms what she has told the court and said in media interviews and all of that. So this is, actual data, the foundation from the forensic examiner saying how it was obtained and going through the chain of custody and all of that, and then putting it out there for the court in an exhibit.
Yeah. I mean, because she already submitted screenshots of the text messages, so this is just proving that they're real. Okay. So Rachel has not yet opposed Arianna's anti-SLAPP motion. I'm sure we'll touch on that when it happens, or maybe we won't, because it seems people are done with Vanderpump, and I can't blame you. All right, so next is Tom Sandoval's motion to strike. This is brief. And so the court, under Code of Civil Procedure Section 436, can strike portions of a complaint that are irrelevant, and that includes allegations that are not essential to the claim, that are not pertinent or do not support an otherwise sufficient claim or defense, requests for relief that are not supported by the allegations of the complaint, things like that. And basically what you argue is like, this doesn't qualify as that. It's not relevant. So it should just be stricken, like completely removed from the complaint. So basically, he wants everything stricken from the complaint that talks about why Rachel should get punitive damages, because he says that the allegations don't support the award of punitive damages or special damages or exemplary damages. So he wants that language completely taken out. That's the extent of the motion to strike. Rachel then opposes Tom's demurrer and motion to strike. The crux of what she must argue, and what she does argue, is that everything in her complaint was adequately pled to survive the stage and let them proceed into discovery. So for the eavesdropping claim against Tom, she says the FaceTime calls are communications under the statute and that it was adequately pled, that the recordings were confidential and that was adequately pled. So she's just going against every argument that he made and saying, no, it was adequately pled. Here's some case law to support why. Next, she argues that she did adequately plead that Tom intruded on her seclusion for the invasion of privacy claim, and that was adequately pled. She didn't know she was being recorded. That's what she argues. For intentional infliction of emotional distress, she argues that because, this is a quote, grossly and disgustingly violated her trust and right to privacy, she pled adequately the IIED claim. If there is anything pled, she argues, the court should grant her leave to amend. So basically she's saying, hey, if I didn't plead anything correctly or adequately, let me amend my complaint. And that happens so often.
So
and then this
often.
entire process starts all over again. And so it goes. The court has since ruled on Tom's demurrer and motion to strike. So first, the court issued a tentative, which we talked about in a prior episode what that is. And the parties had an oral argument on the tentative. So let's read what he did.
Tom's motion to strike was overruled as to the eavesdropping count and to the invasion of privacy cause of action, and sustained as to the fourth cause of action, which is the intentional infliction of emotional distress. So basically, the court said, I'm not going to agree with you, Tom, about what you claimed about eavesdropping and invasion of privacy, but I do agree with your arguments on the intentional infliction of emotional distress claim made by Rachel, but I'm giving Rachel 20 days to amend. Quick update here. Since we recorded this, Rachel has amended her complaint.
And then his motion to strike, where he wanted to take out that language, was denied as moot because it's like, well, she gets to amend, so your motion doesn't matter now. This is from the court's order. Court says plaintiff, so Rachel, sufficiently alleges a cause of action for eavesdropping against Tom Sandoval. Here, plaintiff alleges she engaged in numerous private and confidential video conference communications from 2022 to 2023. Rachel's allegation that the communications were confidential must, at the pleading stage, be taken as true. Further, it is of no consequence that other individuals may have been aware of plaintiff's relationship with Tom. The allegedly sexually explicit video communications at issue are the exclusive subject of plaintiff's eavesdropping claim. This is exactly what we were saying. Tom arguing that everyone else knew about the affair has nothing to do with her allegation that he recorded this confidential communication.
Yep, totally agree with the judge here.
Plaintiff alleges, so Rachel alleges, she had an objectively reasonable expectation that these communications were private and objectively believed that they were not being recorded. Rachel alleges at no point prior to the confidential communications was Rachel informed that Tom was recording their communications, nor did Tom obtain Rachel's consent to be recorded. So that claim survives, and it survives. But that doesn't mean that she wins on that cause of action. That just means that it survives this stage, and now they go into discovery over it. But she still gets to amend the complaints.
The court said that Rachel alleges that Tom invaded Rachel's privacy by, among other things, secretly recording their private communications and capturing sexually explicit footage of Rachel without her knowledge or consent in a manner highly offensive to a reasonable person. The court found that Rachel sufficiently alleges a cause of action for intrusion upon seclusion against Tom, and that she sufficiently alleges the first prong of the cause of action, that Tom penetrated Rachel's zone of sensory privacy in violation of social norms based on her allegation that Sandoval secretly recorded their private communications and captured sexually explicit footage of her without her knowledge of consent. The court found that Rachel sufficiently alleges the second prong of the cause of action, that the alleged intrusion was in a manner highly offensive to a reasonable person based on her allegation that she had a reasonable expectation of privacy such that their private conversations would remain private and that she was not being secretly recorded. Again, this doesn't mean she wins on this count, but the judge says it can go forward, and I agree with the judge here.
I agree. So the next one is that Rachel fails to allege her emotional distress was proximately caused by Sandoval's conduct, or that Sandoval's conduct, namely the alleged sexually explicit recordings, were made with the intention of inflicting injury to plaintiff, or with the realization that injury would result from the act of recording plaintiff. Further, Rachel's complaint alleges that the sexually explicit recordings were not disseminated by Tom, but rather discovered by Arianna when she searched Sandoval's phone when it purportedly fell from his pocket during a performance at Tom Tom. It's just funny to read the court write that.
I know.
Further, Rachel's complaint alleges on information and belief that it was Arianna, not Tom, who distributed and or showed the alleged sexually explicit videos to others without Rachel's knowledge or consent. While Rachel's opposition argues Sandoval's recording and failure to secure the pornographic videos of plaintiff actually and proximately led to her emotional distress, Rachel's pleading does not affirm or make such a factual allegation, and that Tom's recording and failure to secure the pornographic videos were done with the intention of harming Rachel or with reckless disregard of the probability of causing harm to her. So for that reason, that claim does not succeed, but she gets to amend. And that's it. That's where we're at. We're waiting on a decision on Arianna's motion, and then Rachel gets to amend. So since recording, Rachel actually did amend her complaint. She kept Arianna in, she kept Tom in. She is alleging the exact same claims. However, because the court was like, I'm not buying your intentional infliction of emotional distress claims, she decided to try to beef it up. I still don't think this raises to the level of an IIED claim, but let me go through what she added. It's minimal. She added, Leviss is informed and believes, and on such information and belief alleges, that the explicit videos were FaceTime video conference communications recorded by Sandoval without her knowledge or consent in or around February 2023. The two recordings Leviss has seen depict her in a state of undress and masturbating. However, given Sandoval's apparent practice of secretly recording their video calls, Leviss has every reason to assume there are additional illicit videos and or photographs of her that she has not yet seen. Moreover, not only did Sandoval unlawfully record Leviss, he also wholly failed to secure the recordings, foreseeably resulting in their distribution. Then at the bottom, where she lists the elements of the cause of action of IIED, she adds, these acts included, and this is about Sandoval, not only recording pornographic videos of Leviss without her knowledge or consent, but also utterly failing to secure them and storing them unprotected on his electronic devices, which foreseeably resulted in their discovery and distribution by third parties. Interestingly enough, this next paragraph, it used to say Sandoval and Maddox, but she removed Sandoval. Now it just says Maddox. It says Maddox's acts were at all times extreme and outrageous and intended to cause Leviss emotional distress or performed with reckless disregard for the probability of causing such emotional distress. Not sure why she removed Sandoval's name from that. Anyway, so that was the only thing that she did to amend her complaint. Everything else, as far as I can tell, is the same. I did a paragraph by paragraph comparison. It's all the same. So she's still alleging revenge porn against Arianna, still alleging invasion of privacy by Arianna. It's a little bit surprising, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. And like we just said, Arianna's anti-SLAPP motion is still out there and has not been ruled on. Yeah, so I know we're Vanderpump Rule'd out, but I do want to read the decision on the anti-SLAPP when it comes out.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting. And I mean, I feel like Arianna's was really well done. If I were Rachel, I would be wanting to only proceed against Tom. And I feel like that's really what she should have done generally anyway. I think the court might rule in Arianna's favor on some of those.
We'll see. Yeah, and when it comes out, we will record that. Anyway, thank you for listening. And until next time.
All right. Bye, guys.